standing for 50 tons. 14 signifies the width of the bar cutter, the flat bar cutter. This machine has 3 different areas of operation. It has a punch station, a flat bar shear where you can shear flat pieces of metal, also rods, this little holder, and a power cavity. The power cavity can be used for shearing angle, and you'll see we have angle tooling in here right now. Or by just simply replacing the blades, you can shear channel or rod or square or any number of other odd shapes. You use the same housing, but you change the blades inside the housing. Also available in the power cavity is a dedicated set of tooling which can be used only for cutting angle. The advantage in that dedicated tooling is that in addition to cutting straight 90-degree cuts like this, you can also come in on an angle and clip off legs off the angle. You can't do this on this tooling. In order to achieve a cut like this, it's necessary to come down, remove this guard, insert the material in there, clip it off like this.
And that leaves a nice smooth cut.
Yes, it does. Now, as far as the punch is concerned, I'm going to make a cut for you. You'll see we have a stripper, punch holder, die holder, and the die. Simply insert the metal in. You can see you get a good cut each time. Now this is shear a piece off. Here again, you want to have a hold down, but it's not necessary to have it completely down, just enough where you can slide it in and out. The only reason we use the hold down is to keep the material from kicking up, possibly hurting the operator. Also, you get a better quality cut because rather than bending the material before we break it off, we shear it straight off like this, which gives you a very, very good, clean, straight edge that you can either set down flat if you're going to use it for a base plate, or if you're going to butt the two together for some reason, make a box, you get a good straight, even cut each time. Another function of the punch end is by removing punch tooling, you can put a bending brake in there. I'll show you an example of some material that could be bent either in the punch station or in the power cavity. We have brakes to go in both sections. 9-inch brake here, 6-inch brake here. Put some material in here or here, either way. The blades on this machine are guaranteed for a year, unconditional. That means if after a few months they tear up, we'll replace them without charge. One of the reasons we can do that is because the blades on our flat bar shear actually have 4 sides on them. You can cut here, when that gets dull, you can turn it over here, and turn it around, you've got two more cutting edges. Then you resharpen them. You don't throw them away, they can be used over and over again.
This is a 50-ton model. How many models do you have?
We have about 8 or 10 different models ranging from 30 tons on up to 150 tons. We have the standard throat like this, and we have deep throat models when you need to get further into a piece. This is an ideal piece for this machine, but if you had a longer section you wanted to punch a hole in, we can extend the punch further back. Another feature which makes this a convenient machine is the stroke control mechanism that's found right here. You'll notice that the stroke on this machine is rather long as the traveling of the punch. By adjusting this lever right here, you can adjust the distance that the punch travels back before it stops. So if you're doing thin work, there's no use to have that punch retract all the way back up again. It just retracts as far as you need it to clear the work. One other unique feature on the Untitled is the arrangement we have here on the linkage. These are one of the features that distinguishes us from other manufacturers. rather than having a straight pull down like this, we've got a unique double miter arrangement. I'll run this a couple of times. You can see. See the power from the cylinder, which is located behind this guard, is transferred to the middle piece, which does all the work right here in this area, which gives us a lot more mechanical advantage than on other machines. Now what this does for us is that we can take this guard off, and I'll show you. You'll see that this material right here, bar cutter knife, starts back here at the back. Most machines are at their absolute maximum power at this point, just like a pair of tin snips if you're cutting a piece of sheet metal. On our machine, the power gets greater as we travel along the cutting edge. So, as we get further into the work, the blade gets more and more powerful. By the time we get down to this end, we're at 125% of our rated capacity. That means we can cut thicker on this end than we can on this end. It's quite common to see a machine, not ours I'm glad to say, stall out right about here. We'll get this far and can't go any further.
I see.
Not going to happen on our machine. If we can cut it here, we can cut it even greater.
What would happen if you came up with thicker material that's recommended for the machine? Is there a safety factor
The
involved?
nice thing about hydraulics is that if it gets too much capacity, it simply bypasses. That's actually what happens every time you put your foot on the pedal to activate the machine. It goes down. When it gets to the bottom of the slope, it simply bypasses and the hydraulic fluid recirculates. You're not going to overload it, break the frame, or break anything else. The only hazard in overloading would be on the punch end. If you put too much stress on the punch, it'll break, fracture, and little pieces will come out. That's why we have a punch guard right here, a clear plastic guard, to protect the operator in case the punch should be overloaded. But there really isn't any reason to overload the punch, because right here on the side of the machine we have a punch tonnage calculator, and it'll tell you exactly, using the material that you're using, how many tons of pressure is necessary to punch that hole. As long as you don't exceed 50 tons, you shouldn't be in trouble. Let me see if there's anything else we haven't talked about. To change the tooling in the universal housing, there are two bolts, one on either side, located on the other side of the machine. It's just necessary to take those off, slide it out. This tooling here, you can see I can actually move it. It's spring-loaded. You can slide that tooling out and put your angle tooling or your bar cutter tooling into the same unit, slide it back in. This is by far the most popular set of angle cutters that we have. Not only is it versatile, but it's single cut tooling, which means that you don't lose a portion of your steel every time you cut.
I see.
On the slug type shear, you're left with the slug. You lose a 3/8 of an inch every time you cut because of the drop-off piece in the middle.
Okay.
Now, how many of them will you take today?
I'll take about 5.
5 of them? All right. Would you like to take them with you, or would you like to...
This is Duradine's fixed